Hello, some know this as a Raccoon and others as a Trash Panda. In this video, we'll be going over how to assemble this 3D model, as well as using some techniques such as inserts and foil tape. So let's get started.
So now that we have everything printed, I'm just going to briefly go over all the parts. I bought this model online and it came with the front and a back, but the back was more simple. It basically was the shell with the built-in back and a hole down here at the bottom. I'm going to be using addressable RGB lights, and it'll be sound reactive and have multicolor features beyond what they intended. I'll briefly go over some of the parts. Obviously, this is the front. This was printed in various layers and the color was changed at different layer heights. The back, there were supports here in the back, and I've gone ahead and cleaned that up. I've also marked out the position where I want the parts to be. This is going to be for the LED light stands, which are these little stands here with the aluminum foil already attached to it, and I did keep one without sticking the foil on it just to show you briefly how that gets done. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that here. Okay. Now, part of the reason for this video is to demo some techniques. For example, the foil. The foil serves as a good place for the LEDs to stick, and they sort of act as a heat sink in some degree. So just go ahead, peel part of it off, line it up here to the edge, center it a bit, stick it on, come across, and then I'll use my finger and nails to sort of flatten it out here on the edges. Do the top, fold it over, fold it over to the back. Now we have all the foil stands ready. I'm gonna go over brass inserts. Now, the reason that I'm using the inserts is because I want this to look very nice and stick on here. So basically I'm gonna put inserts on all of these, and I'll go over the inserts. We'll show you one and then I'll time lapse through the rest.
So we're at my workstation. I've gone ahead and installed an M3 insert tip on my soldering iron and turned it on at 225 degrees Celsius. Just some notes about the M3 insert. You'll notice that one of the ends is smooth. That's the bottom part. The top end is the knurled part along with the center area. You'll take the smooth part and place it down on the hole for the piece that you want to put it into. So I'll go ahead and take my soldering iron and place it into the hole of the insert. There's no need to put a lot of pressure because as the insert heats up, it'll begin to slide into the hole. You can see there that it's beginning to slowly slide down into the hole. I want to get it flush with the surface. Again, you don't want to put a lot of pressure. Don't be afraid to remove your soldering iron to check your progress. As you can see, it's almost flush with the surface. So I'll put it back since it just needs a little more. And right there, hopefully you can see it's now flush. I'm going to turn it at an angle. Hopefully you can see it. As you can see there, it's flush. So I'm going to go ahead, change the camera angle, and finish this up.
Okay, as you can see, we have all of our inserts in place. Now, you will notice sometimes, hopefully you can see on there, that you may end up with a little bit of plastic coming up. All you really have to do is just sand that down. So some points, when you're putting in these inserts, try to keep your soldering iron straight, especially once you're going near the bottom. Also, don't be afraid to take it off
check the level, put it back on and push it down a little further, just to make sure you're nice and flush, or to whatever height you need it. This is the back, it's the hook where it's actually going to hang. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one, and then I'm going to do this one. I'm going to go ahead and do these 4. And just as a note, don't hold the insert and then put it on your iron, put it out, because you could burn your fingers. If it keeps falling over like that, just kind of put it there and then just grab it on with the tip. Don't ever touch the soldering iron, obviously, because you're just going to end up burning yourself. And you might notice sometimes a little bit of plastic will stick around the end of your solder iron. I wouldn't worry too much about that unless it's actually going into the part that you're going to be putting your screw in. And if the plastic does become a problem, you can actually use your soldering iron cleaner to clean that off. It's usually not a lot. Again, I'm just going to sand this down a bit to make it flush because of the plastic that melted out. But other than that, you really shouldn't have to do a lot of additional work to it. We're up to the last part of the inserts. This is going to be the smaller ones. When you're doing this and you have a through hole like this, you might want to put something metal behind it in order to keep this from burning the surface or whatever you're working on. So this happens to be paper. I don't want to burn that. If you're doing this on a wooden table or something and you don't want to damage it, you could put another sacrificial piece of wood, or you could put an aluminum plate like this behind it. Now, just as a note, as you put in these flat ones on, you'll notice that they don't really have much of a smooth surface at the end to help you line it up. So these tend to be a bit more challenging. And what can happen with these sometimes is, especially on these through holes, you can actually have plastic melt, come over and go in through the bottom and actually stick to the tip of your insert adapter. So hopefully it doesn't happen. We'll take a look and see what happens. Well, you can see there's a little bit there at the end. At least I hope you can see a little black piece of the black plastic on there. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean that off. And let's take a look at the other side. You can see, at least I hope you can see, some of the plastic came out. I'm going to have to cut this off here to make it flush, because this is actually an indentation, but that's fine. So that's something to take note on this type of thing. At least these, especially if you have a through hole. And I just realized that I didn't clean my tip off on that one. So hopefully there isn't that much plastic on my insert that'll affect the screw. If there is, very often you can actually run a screw very slowly through it to clean it up, but the best thing to do is to clean your tip as I did previously. Prevent too much plastic from building on inside of it. Then we have nice and flush here. Obviously we have the plastic over here, but this is still warm. But I do need to clean that off. And for that, I'll use an X-Acto knife. So this was the first one that I did. So that should be pulling off now. So let's clean it up. And this is what I meant, that some of the plastic will get into your thread. Hopefully you can see that. Let's see if I bring it out here. There we go. And that's what happens when you don't clean it. I'm just going to go ahead and finish cleaning this up. Okay, so we're back at the demo table. Remember, we put all the inserts in, and we're now going to test fit some of this. So this is the back, and hopefully you can see that they all line up. Let me see if I could bring that a little closer so you can actually see it. Hopefully you can see them through there. At least this one you should be able to see. So that's on there nice and tight. But I'm not going to put them on yet. But what we can assemble on here is the hook part, which is this part. It's going to go on here like this. And then through the back, we're going to put our screws. And I just realized on here, I'm going to have to put washers on these here because it pushed out a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see that on there. I'm just going to put a little pressure and flatten that back in. It should be fine for the most part. So what likely happened is, as I was putting the insert in, some of the plastic got pushed into the bottom, and while there was enough space down there, there wasn't enough space for both the screw and that plastic. So obviously I can use shorter screws for that, which I actually do. These are M3s by 10 millimeters, so I can probably use 8 millimeters. Now I don't have these in 8 millimeters, so I'm just going to flatten that down and I'll be back. Okay, so I went ahead and flattened that down. Now you'll be able to see a bump on there. See where I sanded it down a little bit, but it's nice and flat now. So like I mentioned previously, what I can use is I can use these X screws, and I'm actually going to use this type to hold the back plate for the ESP32. It's going to be our hook. So let's continue. So next, we're going to go ahead and put these mounts on. We're going to actually crazy glue them and the mount for the microphone, and I'll cover that in a second. Okay, so you'll notice I have some cardboard down. The reason for that is I'll be using a 2-part crazy glue, an activator, and from the instruction what it says is to spray this on one of the sides, put the glue on the other, and put them together, and it will adhere almost instantaneously. So that's why I have the cardboard down, because I'm going to put it on here rather than on the mount. So it says to shake it a little bit. Let it dry. And that does smell a little bit, does let go a little bit of vapor. So I would almost recommend doing that outside. And actually, let's put on the mic first, or the mic mount. So I'm going to go ahead, put a little dab. You don't really need a lot because this is going to be on the inside. It's not going to be moving around. And I put these marks just to let me know exactly where I want to put them. And I'll be honest, that's already on there. So that activator really does work. It's almost immediate. So make sure you get it on the first time.
But really to say, make sure you get it on the spot you want them the first time. Try one side at a time. Yeah, that really does bond almost immediately. Last one. Okay, so that's it. You know what? I just realized that I need 4 more inserts on here because this actually goes on here, screwed from the other side. I'm not going to bore you with that part, so I'm going to go ahead and put this insert and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I've gone ahead and put my missing inserts in. So this is going to go on here like this. I'm going to go ahead and put this one in there. Let me get one on first. Next, I'm going to be covering the electronics that are going to go on here. Taking out a little plastic that I knew was going to come off. I just didn't bother taking it out before. Again, that's from putting the insert in. You can see the benefit of these inserts, I hope. It leaves nice results. You can see this nice and flush. The way I designed it, I have my inserts on there with my screws. Next, we're going to do the electronics. Now, I did go ahead and solder everything together, or almost everything together, before I started recording this video, because this video isn't really a soldering class or anything like that. There are plenty of great videos out there on how to solder. There are great videos on how to install WLED and how to do the wiring. So I'm not going to cover that on here. I'm just covering the assembly of this and the reason for the foil, the inserts, and so forth. I may go over a quick demo on setting up the ESP32. It's actually very easy and very basic. So I may go over that, but let's see how this video progresses. I'm going to go ahead and clean these. And then we're going to go ahead and glue the lights on. And this is just to remove any oil that may be on there, just to make sure the glue adheres properly. Let's give that a few seconds to flash off. So these run in sequence. Basically, you have 3s, and the ones on here have 4s. And I actually measured my distances around this. And when I soldered these wires were actually, they came together, bound together, but I find it's a lot easier to manipulate this if they're loose versus if they're stuck together. For example, you see how these are stuck together? When there's 3 of them, it's a lot harder to find tight corners versus once you split them up like this, each one, as you can see, has the ability to go wherever it needs to go. All right, so I'm going to start routing these. I'm going to start from down here because this is where it starts, and I just realized that I just touched that with my hand. So basically, I'm going to take out tape from the back, stick them on. Okay, as you can see, when I measured this, I had already moved these a little bit. So my measurements are a little off. So I'm gonna have to kind of tighten this up a little bit. I thought I had gave myself extra wire. So obviously, as you can see, so obviously here I did not. Now later on, what I will do is I'll use some hot glue, and I'll hot glue around here on the ends of them, just in case, to make sure it can never come off. So this is the plug for the LEDs. So this actually comes in through the back here. This goes on here like this, and hopefully my holes line up properly. It's gonna go like that. I think I actually need longer screws for this, so I'll deal with that in a minute. I just want to show you this together. The mic goes under here, and I put this just tight enough that it should just barely fit under here, so I could get it on there. I think I made it a little bit too tight. I'm gonna go ahead and try to see if I can break off this glue here. Doesn't seem like that's gonna happen, so we're gonna get it in there. Probably should have put on the mic first. So I was able to loosen this up here. Was not easy. The cap, I do need longer screws. Okay, as you can see, our mic is on there. Our mic hole is right here. Again, black is horrible for videos. So now I just have to glue this back on. Okay, everything's back to how it was. So these are our power wires, which I haven't soldered yet. Our power plug that's going to go on here. So basically, route this through here. Down. And then our plug is right there. Then we have our switch, the push button switch, and that actually goes here. Now this is kind of nifty. So what I did was I took one of the legs from the back, meant to hold this to make this even. So what happens is when this mount is on here, this leg is glued on here, and I'm calling them legs. You can see, at least I hope, it protrudes slightly, and that's meant to allow it to be even against the wall. So what I did for this side is I designed this piece here, which basically looks just like the leg, but will work with the push button. And that is going to go like this. And I'm going to finish soldering that part after I'm done with this assembly. I won't cover that part because I think this video is already going to be long enough. So this is going to be glued on here. This leg goes glued on the tip of the push button. And I'm not sure if you can see it on there. That's my backing, which I hadn't screwed it back on. So when this is against the wall and you put pressure, it's gonna act as a button to cycle through the color display different settings that I will program onto it. I just need to put some activator. And we'll do this side first. Now I need to get my button back in. So there's a little excess plastic in here from the 3D printing support. I really doubt you can see it in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up and I'll be back. Alright, so I've gone ahead and cleaned that up. It fits nice and flush here. So I'm gonna go ahead with my glue. And this one I have to make sure it lines up nicely because I only get one shot. Let that dry right there, even though it has the activator. While that dries, let's figure this one out. You know what I think I'm gonna do? I don't have 10 millimeters of this. Part of the reason I was using those, which I don't know if you can see on here, I put a little indent on there. I'm not sure if you can actually see that. Let's go ahead, try to line that back up. That one doesn't seem to be lining up. Again, this wasn't the specific screw that I was supposed to use on there. Just gonna try another one, and then I'll deal with that one later. So this one lined up perfectly. Just want it on there for now, so we can get these things on. Again, I'm just getting this together so I can show you it working, and then I'll go through the final assembly and I'll show you that at the end. Oh, I just realized that I'm supposed to use the 8 millimeters on here. Okay. Doesn't seem to be affecting it. I'm gonna go ahead, put some activator on the button. Put the smallest amount of glue on the tip of the button right there. We'll take off some of it just in case, because I don't want the button getting glued around the sides and then it's just not going to function. And let's let that set on. Seems to be working. So what's left? I know I got to wire the button onto there, but before I do that, I just want to show you this on. Okay. Then we got our power plug, 5 volt 2 amps. This goes on the back here. And as you can see, it's working. I can show you very quickly what it's going to look like. Again, all these wires have to be put properly. My ground came off here. Just trying to make sure that nothing touches. Just want to show you what it's going to look like. That will also get glued on. There we go. Now, the pink parts, I should go on here, and I need to glue those on. The brightness is actually adjustable, but I'm actually using the phone to record this video, so I can't really adjust them just yet. And since the button's not plugged in, so when you press here, you see how it's rocking strangely? That's because of those screws, so I do need to replace those. Alright, so I finished putting everything together. I've soldered the switch, cleaned up a little bit, put some zip ties to clean up the wires. I soldered the power wires. The only thing missing is putting hot glue in a few key spots, but I'll do that off camera. I also did figure out the screws that I was trying to use do work. What was happening was there was a little buildup
on the plastic from the 3D printing. I guess I was too exact, so I just had to file that down a bit, and now the same screws fit perfectly. The button works nicely. Okay, so I've gone ahead and programmed the push button. So I'm just going to put everything back together briefly just to show you it working. Again, I still have to put the paint, but a little bit off camera. Okay, so that's the default color. So now I'm going to push. I don't know if you can see that the pattern changed. That's pretty much it. I mean, WLED, you could program many colors, many patterns, different color combinations, depending on what you really want. So yeah, that's the demo of the video. The only thing really left is for me to glue everything together that needs to be glued. The front gets glued, the pinks get glued, and that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't, subscribe. Actually, I just realized that I forgot to demo the mic. So right here you can see as I'm talking, he's reacting to the sound. So I thought it'd be nice to give you one final view with a close-up of the final product. So there I have used some hot glue to secure some of the wires and some of the LED strips in place just to make sure that they don't come out. I zip tied a few of the wires to keep them nice and neat. And there we go. You can see the hot glue holding the pieces in place, and that'll make sure that long term nothing can come off easily. Right there I used quite a bit of hot glue to secure the power plug.